All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a skill that's quietly shaping our entire AI-driven world, prompt engineering. We're going to go way beyond just asking simple questions and see how this is shifting from a creative art form into a serious, rigorous science. You know, it all starts with a pretty expensive mistake. See, this quote isn't about the AI technology failing. Nope, it's about a failure in communication. Getting your instructions wrong when you're talking to generative AI isn't just a little frustrating. It can have serious, real-world costs. And really, it all boils down to this classic, timeless principle. The quality of what you put in, your prompt, that directly dictates the quality of what you get out. It's that simple. If you want diamonds, you can't start with garbage. And that's why we call it engineering, right? The whole point is to move past this frustrating guessing game and into a deliberate, structured design process, one where you can actually test, tune, and ultimately trust the results you're getting from AI. Okay, so first up, let's get into the art of prompt engineering. These are the practical, hands-on techniques you can start using right now to immediately get way better results from tools like ChatGPT. I mean, just look at the difference here. When you give a vague request like, summarize this, you're basically forcing the AI to guess what you want. But when you get specific, when you define the format, the focus, what to leave out, boom, you eliminate all that guesswork and get precisely what you were hoping for. Okay, this next one, it's a total game changer. Show, don't just tell. By giving the model a clear example to work from, you're anchoring it to the exact tone and format you need. This technique is called few-shot prompting, and let me tell you, it is absolutely essential for any kind of complex or stylized request. So these shot-based methods, they're pretty fundamental to all of this. Think of it like this. 0 shot, that's your basic direct command. 1 shot is when you give it a single little hint for tasks that are a bit ambiguous. But few shot, where you give it a couple of examples, that's the really powerful one. That's how you get the AI to recognize and replicate truly complex patterns. Now, what if you have a really complex problem? Well, that's where something called chain of thought prompting comes in. Instead of just asking for the final answer all at once, you break the problem down into logical steps. You're basically making the model show its work, and that dramatically reduces errors. All right, and here are a few more quick wins you can add to your toolkit. Even super simple changes, like starting with a strong action verb, telling it the exact format you want, or even giving the AI a role like you are a helpful tutor, can make a huge difference and save you a ton of trial and error. So all these artistic techniques are fantastic for getting a good result once in a while. But what happens when you're not just playing around? What if you're building a real application for thousands of users? Suddenly, getting lucky with a good prompt just doesn't cut it. You need consistency. You need reliability. And that is where we make the big shift from just prompt writing to true prompt engineering. This is the science of it all. It's about treating AI behavior like a real system, something you can measure, version, trace, and optimize, just like you would with any other piece of production software. And this right here, this is the core problem that engineers are grappling with. You see, large language models are stochastic, which is just a fancy way of saying they have a bit of randomness built in. So the same prompt can actually give you different answers. For a casual chat, that's fine. But for a critical business process, that's a complete deal breaker. So if we want to solve for that randomness, we first have to be able to measure it. Makes sense, right? And that's where this idea of semantic stability comes in. It's basically a score that tells you how good a prompt is at getting consistent, coherent responses time after time. It's the key that unlocks reliable, repeatable results. Okay, let's actually see what this looks like in practice. So look at the top here. The prompt is super detailed, gives clear context, and what happens? The outputs are all focused, they're similar, and it gets a high stability score. Now contrast that with the vague prompt at the bottom. The outputs are all over the place, totally inconsistent, and that gets it a low score. That is the measurable difference between good and bad prompt engineering. So what does this mean in the real world? It means you have to build a professional system around your prompts. You've got to version everything that could possibly affect the output, trace every single interaction so you can find bugs, and constantly evaluate if your changes are actually making things better. In production, you can't just wing it. And hey, the data really backs this up. Take a look at this chart. Prompter, that's the system built specifically to focus on this stability stuff, it hits a much higher success rate than the others. The takeaway is simple. More stability equals more reliable performance, period. All right, so we've covered how to build systems that work reliably. But now we have to talk about something even bigger, building them responsibly. This is where the engineering has to meet ethics. I mean, think about it. As these models become a bigger and bigger part of our daily lives, the instructions we feed them start to have real consequences out in the world. So our job, as the people building this stuff, isn't just about getting the right answer, but also about actively considering the impact of our prompts. This means we have to bake these responsible practices right into the design process from the very beginning. Things like designing for inclusion, being transparent about the AI's role, and constantly monitoring for unintended bias. These are quickly becoming the non-negotiable standards for anyone developing AI professionally. So what does this all mean for jobs, for your career? Well, you might remember all the early hype about the six-figure prompt engineer job. The reality, though, is turning out to be way more interesting. It's becoming a universal, core skill for developers, marketers, and scientists. It's less of a standalone job title and more of a must-have skill for almost everyone. And you'd better believe this field is moving at lightning speed. Right now, a lot of it is manual, but we're quickly moving towards a future of adaptive prompting, where the AI actually helps you write better prompts. Then we'll see multimodal inputs using images and audio, and eventually we'll have entire libraries of standardized prompt patterns, just like we do in traditional software engineering. So at the end of the day, this is all about so much more than just figuring out what to ask. It's really about how you build a system that you can truly trust. It's the discipline, that mix of art and science, that's going to turn this incredibly powerful but sometimes unpredictable technology into a reliable, ethical, and truly transformative tool that we can all actually depend on.